This is Brett.
Hey, how are you, Brett? Where are you
I'm
calling
doing
in
well.
from?
I'm actually calling from South Florida.
So talk to me, talk to me. How can I help you? You have a cybersecurity question?
So I run a small company, and I keep hearing about all these breaches from high-profile Fortune 500 companies to other small businesses. And then, friends of mine that run these companies, and they tell me that they get a ransomware attack, and they have to pay. They're being threatened if they don't pay so much money in Bitcoin and all this stuff. And so I'm just wondering, as a small business owner, what do I do to make sure that I don't have a breach? And God forbid I do get a breach, what do I do about it? Do I call the FBI? Do I, call my local police?
That's a good question. Tell me a little more about your
What do I
business.
do?
How many employees do you have? Are you guys working remote? You working in the office?
Yeah, so I have 10 employees, and we all work remotely. So we're a completely virtual company.
Okay. And tell me about, are you guys using some cloud-based software to run the company? Do you have servers sitting in your garage? Where's all your data?
You know what? Everyone is working on their own machines from their
Okay.
own homes, and we're using Microsoft 365.
Okay.
So that's what we use
Oh,
for
that's
email,
fantastic.
and all our files are stored in the cloud through OneDrive or SharePoint.
Okay. So my first question would be, if you're looking to avoid a breach, by the way, before we get into it, you're actually doing really well, because a lot of companies aren't where you're at. So what I mean by that is your emails with Office 365, your data is in Office 365. With everybody working at home, do you have anything in place to assure that people aren't saving data on their local computers?
Well, everyone has a local install of their software. So everyone's using the desktop application. So I assume it's synced up and they have a version of it offline, as a PST file, I guess, with Outlook,
Yeah, for
or
the email.
local copies of their documents.
So
right?
one of the first things you can do is, especially with this work at home, you're not even doing a hybrid. I mean, you're not doing
That's
sometimes
right.
you're
We're
at home,
100%
sometimes you're in the office. You guys
100%
are
work
straight
from-
up.
Yeah.
So
100%.
yeah, while you're in a great position, one thing I would tell you to do is leverage Office 365 and their built-in security features, and make sure that you have everything turned on. So what I mean by that is, and this is again, you're asking about avoiding a breach. So you want to shrink. You want to lower the risk and shrink the surface area. Use all of Office 365's threat protection tools, such as multi-factor authentication. Make sure you have that turned on for email. Make sure that you have backup in place. And one of the things with Office 365, you assume that there's a backup in place. You have to be very careful, because what they consider backup isn't what you might consider backup. So if you want to avoid a breach, you want to have the threat protection tools in place with Office 365, which are built in. You can also add some third-party tools, which you should, that are intended to detect and prevent. So those are avoidance things. You can also train. You want to train your employees on what they can do and what they should do to ensure that they're not doing things like clicking on phishing emails and giving passwords out and password resets, all these sort of fake things that are happening. In the process of doing that, though, I want to take your question a step further and say, well, let's say you do have a breach. Typically, you want to go right back to the data that you have from a backup, but in your case, because you're in Office 365, you probably want to get some third-party backup tools in place. Office 365, Microsoft, they don't give you a lot of backup. They don't give you a lot of retention, and it's very difficult to get back the data once it's breached. And it's counterintuitive, because you think you're getting backup. Read the fine print, and I would encourage you to really just look at that closely. Also, with the work at home, to avoid a breach, if you have people working on their own computers, you don't have a lot of control over the security on those computers. So let's say, for example, somebody's kid sits down at the computer and starts poking around in one of your employees' email because it's on the screen. So you really should have a work at home policy in place that your employees agree to follow. And then, if you have a budget for it, you want to give them laptops. You want to give them computers that you've got control over, so that you can ensure that you're doing things like patching, security patch. You have no idea if their at-home computers are patched, if they're secure. I mean, there's just no way to know. So it's a lot, and there's an investment to make, But you weigh that against what happens if they do get breached and somebody does get into your data. Next thing you know, your data and your client's data, it's all over the internet. So it's like you weigh that investment in them and their at-home infrastructure versus what it would cost you if your clients found out that there was a breach. So it's which one costs more.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. I appreciate it.
I kind of jumped around. I hope I answered your question.
Yeah, you did. I was just curious what some of those third-party tools are that you recommend.
Well, one tool that's really, really powerful is it's KnowBe4. It's KNOW, the letter B4. KnowBe4 is a training platform, which is designed to lower the risk of a phishing breach. So it sort of trains people by sending fake phishing emails out. It trains and sensitizes them to be more careful when they're reading their emails and to be able to identify a potential phishing email. The reason I say that that's important is because like 94% of the cybersecurity breaches, they happen because of a phishing email that was executed. So if you can reduce that, you've only left like 7% of possibility. That's a much more smaller subset to deal with. So you can knock out a lot by going with KnowBe4. It's a great tool. It's not expensive. You probably want to have an IT company kind of help you run it, and it's just not worth your time if you're running a business for you to invest time in setting it up and managing it. But when it's used right, it really, really trains your employees well. That's probably the number one thing I would tell you to do. Number two thing, it's the rest of the technology. So you want to put in place some sort of tool that pushes out security patches to everybody's computer, that it manages antivirus on everybody's computer. You want to push something out that maybe it does some detection if there is some sort of breach that indicates to you and alerts you that, hey, somebody might be on a computer, there's something did happen. There's a lot of different tools in general, but I would go with the KnowBe4 as a starting point.
Wow. Well, you really sound like you know what you're talking about.
I just started today. It's great.
Maybe we need to schedule a call and talk about your services a little more.
Well, I appreciate the call in, and I appreciate that I was able to convey that confidence. And certainly, you're more than welcome to reach out to me. I'd love to help you.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
All right, you too. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye. If you want to find out more about how we can help you with your IT, with your technology, with your cybersecurity, click the link down below. Schedule a free consultation. Would love to speak with you.